we gotta have a talk. Now, last episode, I made this big declaration that the remainder of the No Money Spent series, I will be grinding from my current standing in Division 2 all the way up to Division 1. And I talked about all the things that I'm going to be using and utilizing to get to there. Whether it's upgrading the team, talking about all of the strategies and gameplay tips that I'm really starting to focus on. But one of the biggest things that we need to discuss is what happens when those don't work and you're just losing a lot. To put this in perspective, I entered last week with 1,954 rivals points, but 146 away from getting to my goal of Division 1 and effectively ending the series. Fast forward 7 days, and I was right back to where I started in about the 1850 range. Now, I want to discuss what happened during that run and what I noticed and what I know I need to improve upon so that I eliminate these runs altogether. Number one is accept that you are going to lose a few games in a row. The Rivals matchmaking is designed to make you go 500, meaning that once you hit your peak rating, unless you make dramatic changes to your team or the way that you play, you're really just going to win some, lose some, and at the end of the day, be right where you started once you've hit that peak. So, I want to go over all of the things that I really paid attention to and realized during that massive collapse and how I fixed it. Now, let's begin, like we do every episode, with where the team is at. Since the last episode, we got week 2 of the Hut Closers event, as well as the brand new double shift event. Oh, and we also got the new Titans Danny Healy. Now, the biggest change to the team is definitely on defense, because when week 2 of the Hut Closers event came out, they did release the 95 Victor Hedman. And I mentioned in the prior episode that the Joe Nieuwendyk was just simply not worth the value. Victor Hedman, on the other hand, was a different story. At 6'7", 246, his size and reach is just always going to be impactful, and his 4 abilities are a phenomenal combo. The only thing he's missing is truculence. He's got 96 speed, excel, and agility, and everything else is almost maxed out. I immediately went to work making him, and I'm thrilled that I did. For anyone that listened to my rankings video, this Victor Hedman card is definitely a card that you will not regret making, and he dramatically changed my decor, because now when I throw Colton Parayko over the boards, who is my favorite Hut card and potentially on the Mount Rushmore for me of all-time great Hut cards, his D partner and Victor Hedman, they're just massive and tough to deal with. Now, also in the Hut Closers Week 2 release, we got the 94 Matt Sundin. I was in the market for another high-end centerman, especially one that had 99 faceoffs and silver quick draw, and he's got phenomenal size. I like gold close quarters on him, so I decided to go ahead and make another Master Set player item and pick up Matt Sundin. Now, in the time since our last episode, the Leafs, they went full Toronto Maple Leafs. So John Tavares, unfortunately, locked in at 95 overall. I still don't regret making him because he's got 98 faceoffs, 96 speed, and excel. It's still a very good card, but obviously massively disappointing given the fact that they were up 2-0 in the series. And pairing him with the new Danny Healy has been quite good on the third line. At 6'4", 218 with 97 speed and excel, a max shot, edges. Just really enjoyed using this card, and I like the lineup flexibility now down on the third line. The fourth line now features the 98 Matty Nyes, who was just 1 goal away from being just a super impactful card. Still very good, and my fourth line definitely has a lot of advantages now, just because I also have the 99 Kyle Palmieri. And for anyone wondering, why do I have Kyle Palmieri at 99 overall so low in the lineup? Well, it's his absolute dog endurance. It is just really tough to justify the fact that he can fly down the boards, and legitimately halfway through one rush, he is just wiped out of energy. So I do like having him on the fourth line just because I know that line shouldn't, and I try to prioritize him not being out there very long. He can at least take advantage of some other opponents having lesser fourth lines. Trevor Linden is still here on my fourth line simply for faceoffs, but I am really going to put a focus on trading him as well as one more 92 overall in for Brent Burns. So that brings me back to the decor. Getting Victor Hedman allowed me to drop Scott Niedermayer, who is still one of my favorite cards. I get a lot of questions and a lot of comments about the Warp Speed event players being completely past their prime and it's time to move on. I gotta be honest with you, don't see it. I've tried getting rid of some of the Warp Speed items. I took Mike Modano out of the lineup, but there's just no way around it. 99 speed is 99 speed. It is still one of the most noticeable things that you can have in the game, and free gold wheels with 99 speed, it is at least noticeable, and he has been legit one of my favorite cards this year as well. He is now paired with Cale Makar, and then we went and did it. We got our 10 wins in Hut Champs with a pretty decent run, and I was able to get the 93 Ryan Whitney. and he has been pretty good for me. He's got good size, decent skating, and if it wasn't for the new Victor Hedman, he probably would have been higher in the lineup. So now I've got 2 new left-handed defensemen, and I'm in a pretty good spot with my left-hand defense. The next biggest glaring hole in the team is Axel Sandin Pellikka. I gotta be honest with you, during my run of losing just every single game, every time ASP was on the ice for me, it was simply a matter of I need to get him off the ice or I'm going to give up a goal. And it is 100% well past his prime. I need to move on and get a new right-handed defenseman. And I can't think of a better replacement than the 95 team builder Brent Burns. So once I get another 92 overall team builder item, I'll trade that in with Linden and get the new 95 overall Brent Burns, who has just been an absolute force to go up against. Now, we also got the new XP path, which did feature the Ilya Sorokin, and I'll be honest with you, I've just been going through goalie after goalie, but as you can see, based on the stats with him, I'm 20-3 in Rivals and Champs ever since going to Ilya Sorokin. So anyone that's over 6'3", just give him a shot. Now, I also talked about how I had saved 6 fantasy collectibles from the round 2 release because I didn't feel like making another card after I got John Tavares. So that allowed me to just throw one into the random set before the set expired. Again, I wasn't particularly invested in any of the round 3 options, so I thought fate would just be the decider here. So we're just gonna roll the dice and see who we get, and that's who we're gonna cheer for. Come on, who do we got? Zach Hyman, let's go Oilers. All right. Now, at the time, they were down 0-1 in the series, but since then, he actually scored 2 goals in Game 3, and now he's up to a 96, so this actually worked out perfectly. Now, when it comes to doing all of the objectives and things like that, I've really put a focus in actually just giving it a shot, and just like the Game Breakers release that happened in the prior episode, I decided to do the same thing with Team of the Week. If you actually look at the rewards and what you're getting and the time input required, if you make a Team of the Week lineup, which is extremely cheap to do, you can get all of this done in essentially 2 to 3 squad battles games. And the rewards are not going to be great, but they do definitely add up. And again, it doesn't take a long time to actually get these finished. Now, on top of that, there was a major change to the double shift objectives because they decided to put all of the collectibles in the objective list and remove them from wildcard. So what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to build a double shift lineup with all of the event cards that I'm able to earn over the next 2 weeks and then use those for trade-ins as well. It's obviously not the most fun way to play this game, but after actually paying attention to the time input and the effort required, it's not a lot, and if you are going to play the game all the way through the summer, it might be something, depending on your playstyle, the amount of time that you have available to you, that you might want to give it a shot, and I'll show you the most effective way to do that over the next few episodes. Now, something I do want to point out about the wildcard path is that they went back to the power-up icon, X Factor, and Team Builder rewards, which is what it should have been for the majority of the year. That being said, obviously it being released in May is not going to be as advantageous because it essentially gives you about half of all of these different cards, so holograms, X Factors, or Team Builders. Now, when it comes to the Team Builders, that is a little bit more interesting because it does give you 383 overall Team Builder items, as well as a straight up 86 overall Team Builder item. If you have 192 already, like myself with Trevor Linden, or you want to just make another one because you don't have 2 to trade in for whatever the next tier is, this might actually be worth doing. So, for example, you'll get 3 of the 83 overall Team Builder items, and assuming next week is the exact same, you'll get 1 more, which means that you will be able to get a 86 overall Team Builder item for free, and then it also gives you another 86 overall straight up, which you can then trade in for the next tier, which would be 89 overall. So again, if they come out with the exact same thing in week 2, you're going to be awfully close to making a 92 overall Team Builder item. Now I want to talk about season collectibles and where we're at in the market, because there has been a massive change to the market where almost everything has lost its value. We have officially hit the inflation point of Hockey Ultimate Team. And as it stands right now, the barrier of entry for the double shift event is 88 overall items, and those are going for essentially 9,000 coins per. But the craziest part is that has all but demolished anything below 88 overall. Again, we're very late in the year, but they did add in this new 88 to 89 overall exchange item, which is actually pretty good considering it, no matter what, will give you at least the cards required to get into the event. However, it means that everything 86 and below is going for under 2,000 coins. Everything in the auction house has pretty much tanked in price, and the reason why I want to bring that up is simply because of the sets. So one of the biggest questions I get every single season is, what is the pack that you should use your XP collectibles on? And usually I like to avert people's chance at risk, so this 87 and above player choice pack is usually what I recommend, but technically you can pull an 87, but even if you pull an 88 and above item, you're essentially getting about 9,000 coins in value for the 10 collectibles. And what's crazy is that for 3 collectibles and getting 5 78 and above overall player items, those are actually still selling somehow. Like, the cheapest thing on the market is 1,200 coins, meaning that if you just do the 5 by 78 and throw it up for, 1,000 coins, you're making 5,000 coins per pack. You can open up 3 of them with 9 collectibles, or 1 less than the 87 and above player choice item, and you're making like 15,000 coins. Again, it's not guaranteed, and anything with the market is subject to change, but just something I noticed that the market is all but cratered, and everything is super cheap. So now let's discuss how I went from this at 1954 all the way down to 1855 in essentially 48 hours. So I talked about this earlier, but patience is 100% the reason here. In my run of gaining 100 skill rating in essentially a week, something that I was doing when I was going back and watching all of my games is that I was holding onto the puck and waiting for my opponent to move first, dictating then what I would do. I talked about this as well in a lot of my tip videos, that one of the worst things that you can do that people don't realize that they are doing is that they think movement is always the best thing. And when you get into the higher levels, you almost run yourself out of room. Even if people have no idea what you're doing and you're trying to create all sorts of passing lanes and things like that and people aren't adjusting to it, eventually you just don't have any space, you can't sit still, and you end up making a really low percentage play. So let's break these 2 clips down because I think they show a perfect example of what happens when you are playing well with a ton of patience and what happens when you're on an insane tilt run and you have absolutely none of it. So let's start with the good. I win the face-off, I wait for him to pressure me with his winger, and then I fire it up to Bondra. I've shown you guys this play a number of times throughout the years. It is one of the best when you win a face-off in the neutral zone. I take the puck in with Bondra, and I want to cut towards the net. A very common play that I do is try to cut inside and go low far side or upstairs. He takes it away with Makar, so I protect the puck, and I curl back towards the boards. Now, this entire time, I am watching Couturier, who he has selected, and I make him make the decision for me, because I could try and force it back to Parayko at the point, or back to Hedman, but instead, I sit along the boards, and watch what happens. He goes right back to the point to try and cover Parayko. I wait until he's almost there, leaving the middle of the ice open. He then tries to cover it again, and then I cut right into the middle with Bondra, and I fire it low, and I'm able to score. That entire play was set up because I was being patient with the puck. I didn't want to make a move that he was dictating. I simply just relaxed a little bit, and he did all of the work for me. Also, note the vibes. Oh, boys, we're feeling horny today. When things are going well, energy's high. The second that you notice that you're just straight up not having any fun, 100% it is the time to step away from the game. If I wasn't streaming, I legitimately would have ended my run over that 48-hour span like 10 different times. But because I just had to queue up and keep going, it 100% derailed the entire thing. All right, now let's dissect the bad. This is from that final game that dropped me almost all the way back to where I started. So I win the draw, and I wait for him to pressure me and fire it right up to Heatley. Again, this play will work almost every single time that your opponent rushes you with the winger after a neutral zone draw win. Now watch what he does with Chelios. He simply just stays where he should and forces me to make a decision. And because I'm staring at Chelios not moving, I take one glimpse at Sundin in the high slot, and I completely miss that Hughes is legitimately in the passing lane and disrupts this whole play. It might not seem like much, but had I just, with Heatley, curled back into the boards like I did in that first clip, I could then set up some offense, and again, try and get him to decide where I am going to go with the puck. And if you ever want a signal that you have absolutely no patience, throwing the puck out when you shouldn't is quite possibly the biggest sign. And again, note the vibes. However, as it stands, I was able to battle back and get close to 1900 again, but still, just an absolutely devastating run after I had started so strong. However, you want to see the most frustrating part about that entire scenario? I messed around and ended up getting top 100 in Hut Champs this week. So, getting this 95 overall George the Rock was actually pretty solid. I've talked about this a ton. I love Truculence. It's been hard to find top-end cards that have it, and I'm definitely going to utilize the 95 overall George the Rock. However, we should talk about the Hut Double Shift event and the 5 Master Set items that came from the first release. They actually solve a pretty big issue that's gone on in Hut this year, and that's the weak endurance rating. However, 99 endurance now means a lot less than it did earlier in the year. I think this just falls into that same bucket that I've stated a number of times about a lot of these events, and that is simply if you just reordered them and put this event near the beginning of the year, it would have had a lot more staying power and been far more interesting. Now, when it comes to who I would recommend from week 1, I will have a full rankings video when week 2 comes out. Aaron Ekblad is pretty interesting. However, again, if you had to make a decision between Brent Burns or Aaron Ekblad, I'd probably go with Brent Burns. So we'll wait and see who comes out in week 2 from the Double Shift event to see who's going to get added to the squad. But to everyone else still grinding this week, good luck.